Hello, I'm really glad you're here. On this channel, I share simple, quiet stories about life, love, and the little feelings we all go through. If that sounds like something you enjoy, don't forget to subscribe. Every subscriber gives me a little more encouragement to keep telling these stories. Now, let's begin today's story. The third floor apartment where Josh lived wasn't much bigger than a dorm room, but it was quiet enough that he didn't have to hear anyone scolding him, asking questions, or bringing up the past. The kitchen bled into the living room with stacks of old books by the desk and a worn brown couch, the one his mum bought back when they moved into the last house the whole family shared. Josh, 23, was once a state honor student, the middle child in a family of 5. Now, he was a freelance coder, living off short-term contracts for small companies he never met. It was the only job that didn't involve getting yelled at or being wished a happy birthday. His phone buzzed on the desk, the screen lit up Grandma. Josh glanced at it, hesitated, then answered. Helen, his mother's mother, sounded warm as always, but a little more tired than the last time he heard her voice.
Hey, Grandma.
Josh, I'm sorry for calling this late, but it's about Max.
He's in trouble again.
The school sent a suspension notice today. He got into a fight.
What?
He said the other kid told him, "No one in your family wanted to keep you. Like there's no one in this world really standing by his side."
Josh pushed his coffee mug aside and sat up straight. Max, his youngest brother, was 14 now, living with their grandma ever since the divorce. After that messy custody battle when Josh was 13, no one took Max. His mum said it was too much, and his dad vanished into Florida.
I tried calling him a few days ago. He didn't say a word.
He's hurting. Josh, he doesn't know who to trust. Sophie hasn't spoken to him in 2 years. Clara even blocked him on Facebook.
Does Mom know?
I didn't call her. I knew it wouldn't matter.
Josh didn't answer. His relationship with his mum, a fierce but thorny woman, was always a mystery. After Josh's dad left, she built a wall around herself, pushing her kids away in the name of tough love.
I'm old now, Josh, raising Max. I don't know how much longer I can hold on. He needs an adult, someone in this family.
You want me to come back to Michigan?
No, Josh, I want you to think how this family just once might remember that we used to be one.
Josh let out a small laugh, the kind that doesn't mean anything good.
You know, Clara and Mom aren't even in the same state. Sophie smashes her phone every time she sees a picture of Dad, and Dad forget it. I don't even have his number.
Do you remember the last dinner?
Max's birthday. That Italian place on Beacon Street.
You were 13. Your parents sat at opposite ends of the table. Sophie cried. Clara argued with the chef because the cake had the wrong name, but at least everyone was there.
Josh leaned back in his chair. Outside, the sky had gone dark, the streetlights hazy. Inside, nothing moved but the blinking cursor on his computer screen and his fingers tapping lightly on his thigh.
I don't blame anyone, but I believe, if there's one person crazy enough, stubborn enough, foolish enough to make this family sit down together again, it has to be you.
The call ended. Josh hung up without another word. He stood, opened the drawer of his desk, and took out a picture frame. The whole family, Dad, Mum, Clara, Sophie, Max, and himself in those ridiculous Christmas sweaters, holding hot cocoa, with a tall green tree behind them almost brushing the ceiling. Josh couldn't remember who took the photo, maybe Grandma, maybe a neighbor. But one thing he did remember clearly in that moment: he felt safe. That feeling was long gone now. Max was throwing punches because he felt abandoned. Clara was buried in her academic world. Sophie wandered as a barista in Portland, refusing to connect with anyone. Mum kept her calls short, and Dad probably had a new family by now. But Grandma was right. If not Josh, then who? It was close to 9 p.m., and the rain still hadn't stopped. Josh sat back down at his desk, absent-mindedly spinning a pen between his fingers, eyes drifting toward the flickering street lamp outside his window. Helen's words kept circling in his head. Max. Suspended from school. Because someone teased him about being the kid nobody in the family wanted to keep. Josh unlocked his phone, scrolled through his contacts, and paused at Mum. The profile picture was blank. He hadn't changed it since resetting his phone. His finger hovered for a moment, then pressed the call button. The phone rang 3 times, then a click, the call was picked up.
Hello.
Hey, Mom, it's me.
Joshua, is something wrong?
I'm calling about Max.
Silence, like she was already looking for a way out of a conversation that had barely begun.
Your grandmother called you.
Yeah, she said Max got suspended.
He got in another fight.
Because the other kid said something about the family. It really hurt him. Mom.
Josh, you know how hard I tried after the divorce.
And no one took him in. You said finances weren't stable, but now?
Are you blaming me?
Her voice sharpened instinctively. Josh sighed, trying to keep his calm.
I'm not blaming. I just think maybe you should call him. Say something.
I wouldn't even know what to say. He wouldn't listen.
At least try, Mom.
You think it's that simple? Clara hasn't answered my calls in 3 years. Sophie blocked my number. Now Max?
You used to say you loved us more than anything, but we only heard that when you were yelling at Dad.
Silence on the other end. Then her voice returned cool and distant.
I don't have time to dig up the past. If you called just to tell me how to be a mother, then maybe we should end this here.
I'm not trying to argue. I just need to know, can you help cover Max's tuition next semester? It's due next month.
I'll check. Send me the account info. That's all.
The call ended. Josh didn't even get to say goodbye. He put the phone down and sat still for a long time. The room's light flickered briefly, then steadied again. Outside, the rain grew heavier, pelting the window in impatient waves. Josh wasn't angry. He didn't have the energy for that emotion anymore. Talking to his mother had always been like this, rigid, guarded, never letting vulnerability slip through. She used to be the kind of woman who laughed while baking cookies with her kids, who hugged all 3 of them on the couch during Saturday morning cartoons. But after the divorce, she became a locked fortress, maybe out of pain, maybe out of fear of seeming weak. Whatever the reason, Josh had come to understand he didn't have that mother anymore. What remained was a woman who managed bank transfers and cut off phone calls. And Max, the youngest, was the one paying the price for it all. After the call with his mum, Josh didn't do anything else. The computer was still on. The email still unsent. The coffee stone cold. In his mind was a blurry void. Like the rain smeared across the window, not exactly sadness, not quite anger, just emptiness. He got up and walked to the small wooden cabinet where he kept things that were unnecessary but too hard to throw away. Josh pulled out the bottom drawer. Inside was a photo album, green fabric cover, corners worn thin. He brought it to the desk and flipped through the pages slowly, as if rushing might tear a thread of time. Photos from elementary school, ski trips with Dad, Sophie wearing a birthday crown at 10. Then he stopped. In the middle of a page was a photo larger than the rest Christmas when Josh was 8. He sat between his parents, wearing a red sweater, chubby cheeks, smiling like he had no idea what the word divorce meant. Clara stood behind the chair, hand on Mum's shoulder. Sophie sat at the other end of the table, laughing with her eyes shut. Someone, probably Josh, had just told a silly joke. Twinkle lights sparkled on the tree behind them. The dinner table was full, red and white plaid tablecloth, glasses raised mid-toast, between people who once called each other honey. Sweetheart, my daughter, your big brother. Josh exhaled softly. It had been years since he'd looked at that photo, not because he forgot it, but because he remembered it too well. He leaned his elbows on the desk, staring into his younger face. That kid had no clue that just a few years later, this photo would become the only proof that such a moment ever happened. And then, as if he could no longer hold it in, he whispered.
If only just once more.
No one answered. No miracle followed, just the rain, growing heavier. But the words echoed in his mind, more persistent and clearer than anything else he'd heard all day. Josh closed the photo album and placed it back in the bottom drawer, like locking away a part of his memory in an unguarded safe. He returned to his desk, opened his laptop not to write code, but to start a new document. At the top, he typed, "Reasons they'll show up." In a silent minute, he wrote 2 more words, "My wedding." He stared at the line, hollow. There was no one, no girlfriend, no engagement ring, no proposal plan. But a wedding, no one in the family could ignore that. Josh stood and rummaged through the cabinet for his grandma's old address book. Amid the handwritten phone numbers was a familiar name, Bramble Restaurant, the place where his parents once got married. He made the call.
Bramble Restaurant. Good evening.
I'd like to book a private dinner for 10 on December 14th. Decorated like a wedding, no minister, no legal stuff, just a fake wedding dinner.
Would you like us to play any special role?
No, just make it look real, as if everyone believes it's real.
After putting down the deposit and confirming the date, Josh sat back down, opened his browser, and typed "hire actress to play bride, Chicago." He skimmed through several services. Some looked legit, others outright ridiculous. Then he stopped at a website called Real Play, actors for real-life roles. Among the listed profiles with photos, bios, and open schedules, one name caught his eye, Lana Moss, age 25. Previous roles included playing a fiancé in staff training programs, staged family events, and stand-in relatives for special occasions. Notes read, "I play who people need, nothing more." Josh opened his email and wrote, "Hi. My name is Josh. I'm looking for someone to play my fiancé for a family dinner in Michigan. No intimate interaction required. No emotional performance, just someone to accompany me. Smile at the right moments and keep it natural. The reason is personal, but it matters. Travel and lodging will be covered. Best, Josh." 15 minutes later, a reply came. "Hi, Josh. Sounds like a strange but intriguing gig. I'm available on that date. Send more details. And I'll confirm. I'm good at being who people need, nothing more, Lana." Josh leaned back in his chair, hands behind his head, eyes fixed on the ceiling. There was no excitement in him, no fear either. Only one thing resolve. This dinner wasn't for him. It was for Max, for Clara, for Sophie, for Mum. For a memory left behind, one no one else was willing to pick up again. Josh sat at the wooden desk, the soft yellow glow from his lamp casting a warm pool of light onto the ceiling. On the table lay 6 ivory envelopes, each one lined up like 6 quiet sighs waiting to be heard. He picked up his pen, his hand trembling not from the cold, but from not knowing how to begin with each person. Every name brought up a distinct wave of emotion, familiar yet distant, like old classmates from another life. He started with Grandma, the only one still holding the role of central figure in what was once called a family.
Dear Grandma, I know I'm not good at saying what I feel, but I think it's time for our family to sit down together just once. I'm getting married. December 14th. At Bramble, the same place where Mom and Dad had their wedding. I don't expect anything except for you to be there. If you come early, I'd love to be the one who walks you in. Love, Josh.
He folded the letter, slipped it into the envelope labeled Grandma Helen Ross. The second letter was for Mum. He placed the pen down, picked it up again, erased what he wrote. Eventually, he typed it out and printed it as if needing to keep their communication properly distanced.
Dear Mom, I'm getting married. I know there's been a silence between us that neither of us has dared to break. But I hope you'll come. Not for me, but for Max, for Clara, for Sophie. December 14th, Bramble Restaurant. I'll understand if you don't, but if you do, I'll be grateful. Josh.
Envelope labeled Mum, Laura Kingsley. For Dad, Peter West, the letter was shorter. Their relationship hadn't fully broken, but it hovered in awkward limbo, like two former classmates at a reunion, avoiding the divorce conversation no one wanted to start.
Dad, I'm getting married. Not the kind of wedding you ever pictured for me, but the kind I need right now. December 14th, Bramble Restaurant. If you come. I'll make sure there's a seat next to mine, Josh.
Envelope labeled Dad, Peter West. Clara, the eldest sister, a literature professor, who shut down every family group chat after Mum once called her job a state-funded hobby.
Clara, if you're reading this, it means you still check real mail, the only thing that makes me believe we're still connected. I'm getting married. December 14th. Bramble Restaurant. No one needs to forgive anything. I just hope you'll come as a sister. Nothing more. Josh.
Sophie, Josh's only ally during the early years after the divorce, she left home at 18, moving from state to state, always living in temporary apartments and working temporary jobs.
Sophie, I don't know if you still use this address, but if this reaches you, I want you to know I'm getting married. December 14th, Bramble Restaurant, Michigan. Just show up. I don't need flowers. Gifts, I need someone from that old Christmas photo. If you come wear your black leather jacket, I'll spot you from across the room. Josh.
Lastly, Max, the youngest brother, once so close to Josh, now entangled in school trouble and abandoned by the adults who should have stood up for him. Josh took a deep breath, then wrote,
Dear Max, I don't know if you still want to talk to me. Grandma told me about school, but that's not as important as this. I'm getting married. December 14th, Bramble Restaurant. If you come even for just 10 minutes, that'll be the best wedding gift I could ask for. If you don't want to say anything, just eat and leave. No pressure. But if you remember that last Christmas photo, the one where your smile was the biggest, this might be a chance to take one more like it. Josh.
6 letters, 6 invitations that weren't really about a wedding, but about a meal, a reason, one last try. Josh sealed each one, walked to the mailbox at the corner, and dropped them in one by one. The sound of paper landing at the bottom so soft, it might have been the quietest sound of his life. But maybe, just maybe, it would echo louder than anything he'd ever dared to hope for. 4 days after the letters were sent, Josh woke early, made coffee, and checked his email. Nothing, just spam and an old job site newsletter. On the 5th day, the first message came not from Mum or Clara, but from Max.
Got the letter. Is it real? Anyway, I hate ties.
Josh smiled a smile that was half sad, half relieved. He replied,
No tie needed. Just take a seat. I'm saving you a spot by the cake.
Later that same afternoon, the phone rang. Dad. Josh hesitated for a second, then picked up.
Hello?
Josh, got your letter.
I know it probably sounds strange.
Strange is putting it mildly. A wedding. No one's even met her. No one's heard a word about her. What's going on?
I just need everyone in one place, just once.
So the wedding isn't real.
That's not the point. The point is the table.
Silence on the other end. Then, Dad's voice softened.
I'll come. Not for the wedding? Because you wrote that letter? That's worth showing up for.
Josh hung up, set the phone down, and stared at the ceiling, trying to remember the last time Dad willingly said, "I'll be there." Maybe his 10th birthday. The next morning, a message from Sophie popped up, classic, her fast. Blunt, but honest.
Josh, what are you doing? Some disguised group therapy stunt. You know no one can sit at that table without setting off something. But fine, I'm curious. And I like free food.
Josh replied with one line.
You being there is enough. I'll handle the rest.
An hour later, Clara sent an email, short, grammatically perfect.
Received the letter. Will consider.
No greeting, no signature. On the 7th day, the mailbox gave a soft thump. A thin envelope. Violet ink. A gentle slant in the handwriting. It was from Grandma.
Josh, I once said if anyone in this family was crazy enough to do something wild for the sake of us, it'd be you. I'll be there. Not for the wedding, but because you still believe something can be saved. Love, Grandma.
Josh folded the letter and held it between both hands like he was protecting a lit match. In a world where everyone ran on logic, someone who believed in madness, sometimes that was the last candle left. Mum still silent. Josh didn't hold it against her. He just wrote a note on the whiteboard, "Prepare dinner for 6 and 1, empty chair." On Saturday afternoon, Josh arrived at the Maple and Pine Cafe at 2:00 p.m. sharp. The air was cold, but inside. Warm light glowed against wood-panelled walls. The scent of cinnamon mingled with soft jazz playing overhead, making the place feel like a movie set built for quiet conversations. Josh picked a table by the window, a 2-seater, just close enough that a light reach could brush the other's coffee cup. He didn't know if such detail was necessary for the role, but he chose it anyway. Lana arrived at 2:05. Beige knit coat, dark scarf, flat shoes, no big bag, just a small notebook and a ballpoint pen clipped to its spine.
Josh.
Yeah, that's me. Nice to meet you.
Nice. Huh, for a guy planning a fake wedding, you're surprisingly polite.
I try not to forget my part.
They sat down. Josh ordered a black coffee, Lana a ginger tea. The first few moments passed in measured silence, as if both were calculating emotional distance before stepping into any scene.
So, your fiancée, me, who is she?
Lana Moss, 25, freelance content creator. Met me at a tech seminar in Chicago.
Oh, and I stayed because...
Free coffee, but you stuck around because of the way I looked when talking about data modeling.
Lana laughed, not for long, but it was real.
Sounds like I'm falling into a very dramatic love story. How close do you want me to play it?
Not too sweet, just familiar. Like we've made it through a few holidays, argued over kids' names once or twice, and still show up because something stronger than romance kept us there.
Lana nodded, then opened her notebook and jotted a few lines.
How long should we hold eye contact? When's the right time to touch hands? Do we have nicknames? How many shoulder brushes per dinner?
I haven't thought that far. I just need my mom to look at you and not see a stranger. And I need my brother to think I'm living a life that's real.
Lana stopped writing. She looked up at Josh longer than expected.
Sounds like you're not hiring a performer. You're hiring living proof of something you used to believe in.
Maybe, but only for 3 hours. I don't need it to last.
Then let's rehearse.
They acted out their How We Met story. Josh described the mock tech seminar. Lana filled in the blanks, croissant at the back table. I asked if he could help me print my ticket. Together. They built the scene like seasoned actors, yet something deeper began to sink beneath the surface. After over an hour, Lana closed her notebook and slid the pen away.
I can do this, but I need you to understand this isn't a cure. It won't fix anything. It just builds a softer backdrop for the truth.
That's all I'm asking for.
They stepped outside as the sky turned grey. Cold wind slapped their cheeks. And Josh thought, I'm staging something fake, but maybe this moment with Lana, with this air, is the realest thing I've had all week. Before they parted ways, Lana turned back.
I didn't ask why you're doing this, but if you're making everyone sit down just to keep a memory alive, then you'd better perform with your whole heart, not just technique.
I'm not good at using my heart.
Then you're lucky, because that night, everyone else will bring enough heart for you.
11 days until the night that could change everything. Josh hung a large whiteboard on the living room wall and wrote with black marker. Item by item, table, decor, rings, dress, music, seating chart, reasons no one will ask. Each item had a sticky note under it, each note a silent worry waiting for resolution. First task, the venue. He called Bramble again, the manager, who now remembered his name, was courteous and cooperative.
Yes, Mr. Josh. We've reserved the south dining room for your great lighting, fireplace, and original hardwood floors.
I'd like one long table, no tablecloth, wooden chairs with armrests.
For aesthetic reasons.
For memory, I want it to feel as close to back then as possible.
Josh sent a seating diagram, requesting a rectangular setup for 10. Mum's seat would be near Max's, an opening, not an obligation. Clara and Sophie across from each other, like opposite banks of a river. The bridge long gone, but the current still moving forward. Dad at the far end. Next to Grandma, once the pillars, now quiet symbols. Josh and Lana in the center, a steady midpoint in a dinner nobody had asked for. Decoration. Josh kept it simple. White flowers, warm candles, dim string lights along the wooden walls, no wedding arch, no couples' names. Just a small wooden sign, evening ceremony, Josh and Lana, for family only. Josh and wedding rings. Josh found 2 faded silver bands on Etsy. The seller asked if he wanted them engraved. He thought a moment, then typed, "Only for tonight." Music. Josh contacted a local conservatory student and hired him for 3 hours of acoustic guitar. He sent a playlist, "This Guy's in Love with You," "Close to You," "We've Only Just Begun," songs his parents used to play in the kitchen when love was still there. Wedding dress. Josh texted Lana to ask if she needed help with a rental. Her reply was short, like someone used to this kind of request.
I've worn a wedding dress more than 4 times. I'll handle it. Just make sure the lighting's soft white fabric doesn't like being interrogated.
Josh smiled. He wasn't sure whether to laugh or ache. His pretend wife had worn more wedding gowns than his mother ever had. He spent that night testing every detail, adjusting the room's light, playing music through small speakers, rehearsing how to introduce Lana with calm, believable warmth. Each action felt like part of building a stage and quietly waiting for a miracle. While reorganizing his closet, Josh found a small box of old things, the first letter his dad wrote after the divorce, a copy of the court ruling, the last Christmas photo when the whole family still shared one table. He nearly threw it all out. Instead, he sealed everything in a large envelope, labeled it, "Do not open unless it fails." That night, Josh sat alone in his apartment, yellow lamplight spilling onto white walls. No one knew he was planning a wedding that wasn't real, not for love, not for legality, only for a meal. But in Josh's heart, this wasn't a stage he was building, it was a table, wide enough to bring everyone back, warm enough for those who'd been cold too long. December 14th in Michigan was cold enough to feel like the lake had yet to thaw. Snow drifted lightly, not enough to block the roads, but just enough for Josh's hands to tremble as he pulled open the door to Bramble at 4:30 p.m. The small south dining room sat behind a red-tiled hallway, the air tinged with the scent of roasted wood. The fireplace was already crackling. The candles lit, a long table dressed in deep burgundy velvet, wooden chairs with armrests lined both sides evenly. At the center of the table stood a small sign, "No flowers, just people." Lana stood beside him, in a simple white dress, hair tied low, lips bare. She hadn't said much since entering, just checked the lighting, adjusted napkins, and tested the fake rings 3 times with the focus of a stage technician.
Ready.
I once staged a wedding in a Walmart parking lot. This is Broadway.
Josh laughed softly, but the smile faded when the doorbell chimed. The first to arrive was Grandma Helen Ross, wrapped in a wool coat, cane in hand, wearing faded velvet shoes. She stepped in and said nothing for a few seconds. Her gaze swept the table. The fireplace, the candles, and as if comparing them to a memory.
Not as awful as I imagined.
You cold.
Cold's good, keeps people sharp.
She turned to Lana, squinting.
Hello there, you must be…
Lana, Josh's fiancée. So nice to meet you.
A few more steps and you'll be family. Take your time.
Next came Dad, Peter West, brown overcoat, fedora, eyes red from a long drive. He walked in, nodded at Josh, no handshake, no hug.
Hey, son.
Glad you came.
Still smells like burning wood in here. Just like 10 years ago.
When he saw Lana, surprise flickered in his eyes.
And you are?
Lana, my fiancée.
Uh-huh. Well, pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, sir. Hope dinner exceeds expectations.
Sophie followed, black leather jacket, purple dyed hair, boots marked with slush. She swept in like a gust of wind. No hugs, no small talk.
Is this a wedding or a family group therapy dinner?
Both, maybe.
I didn't bring a gift, just a hungry stomach.
She looked at Lana.
Looks the part. I'll test the psychology later.
I majored in acting. Your brother hired well.
Clara came next, charcoal dress, tweed coat, eyes sharp and mouth closed. No hugs, no handshake, just a nod.
Josh,
Thanks for coming.
I came to see how long you plan to stretch this illusion.
When Mum Laura walked in, the air slowed. She wore a long wool dress, small clutch in hand, the faint, familiar scent of perfume trailing behind. Josh froze a second, then stepped forward.
Mom?
You invited me. I came. Don't expect more.
Just grateful.
No more words, just a look like 2 strangers who once knew each other. Then Max arrived, 14 years old, white shirt, old sneakers, eyes wide, like he couldn't quite believe he was really there.
I made it. No talk about grades, okay?
You showing up is already a win. Where's your tie?
Wrapped it around my wrist. Feng Shui bracelet.
Lana let out the first real laugh of the evening. Everyone turned to Max like he'd said the one thing no one else dared, that awkwardness. Sometimes could be healing. With everyone present, the room seemed suspended. No one sat, no one touched. The emotional gaps were louder than the physical ones. Under the table, Lana gently squeezed Josh's hand.
You want me to start or wait?
Wait, let them really see each other first.
And they did really look like none of them had, for years. Like Josh, seeing his family not through screens or secondhand stories, but right there, breathing. For 3 seconds, no one said a word. In the next 4, a long night began. They sat down as if settling onto a frozen lake not quite solid, each afraid one wrong move might crack the surface beneath them. Silverware lined up neatly, plates arranged with appetizers, candles burned at just the right height, but no one touched a thing. Lana sat beside Josh, back straight, eyes scanning each face like a polite guest getting to know a family she'd only just married into. Josh swallowed hard. He'd imagined every scenario from tears to yelling, but hadn't anticipated the most terrifying one: silence. His mother sat upright like she was attending a parent-teacher conference. His father studied his plate like a pending contract. Clara smoothed the edge of her napkin. Sophie tapped her fingernails softly against the table. Grandma closed her eyes as if mid-prayer. Max stayed quiet. A minute passed, then 2. Lana leaned toward Josh, whispering just loud enough for him to hear.
If I were directing this, I'd cut the scene. Too still.
You're the actor. Save it.
Lana stood, lifting her glass of grape juice, a simple motion, but enough to gather every gaze, neither too confident nor timid.
I know. Most of you didn't come here because of me, and that's completely okay. I just want to say thank you for sitting down, whatever the reason. And, if we can, maybe let's try this dinner like some things are still worth trying again.
She gently clinked her glass against Josh's, then sat back down. No applause, no backlash, just a subtle shift in the room like a pebble dropped into still water. Max suddenly spoke, voice soft but clear.
Can I start eating now, or is there more ceremony?
A few chuckles slipped out unexpected, but genuine. Sophie raised an eyebrow.
Kid's got social sense. Give it a few years. He'll be insufferable.
Give it a few minutes. I'll be starving.
People picked up their utensils. The soft clinking of silverware began a kind of quiet music Josh thought he'd never hear again. They started eating slowly. The first conversation wasn't personal, it was about the food.
This soup tastes like something your mum and I used to make. You must have remembered. Josh.
It's decent, not like home, but decent.
Meat's tender. Who chose the menu?
I did.
Good. You've got better taste than I thought.
No one mentioned the wedding. No one asked who loved whom, or why, or how long, but each glance, each neutral remark felt like a quiet orbit around unspoken things, yet no one stood to leave the table. Lana didn't force herself into the conversation, but each time silence loomed. She offered something light.
I used to work in a restaurant. When a table doesn't order wine, it usually means something's going on. But here, I think everyone's sticking to juice because they want to remember everything.
That line made Grandma smile, Sophie smirked. Clara tilted her head slightly.
You should write a thesis on table psychology.
If you'll allow, I'd like to use this family as my first case study.
Another soft wave of laughter. No one laughed hard, but laughter had returned. Josh sat still, eyes sweeping over every face. His heartbeat slowed. He didn't know how long this would last, but right now they were eating. And no one had left the table. For the first time in 10 years, family dinner wasn't a memory, it was happening. Dinner passed at a slow rhythm. And for a moment, it almost felt peaceful. Each person had found a few seconds to soften their face, to glance around without full defense, but family, like cracks beneath thin ice, always has a way of shifting suddenly, without warning. Sophie had just finished a story about getting lost in Portland. Clara had even smiled. But as the story ended, Sophie sighed, picked up a potato, and tilted her head toward Clara.
Funny. I figured you'd be the last one to show up. You only appear when things need controlling, right?
Clara set her fork down, eyes still on her plate, but her voice sharper than silver.
I came for Josh, not to be a spectator at your sarcasm showcase.
Their mother froze mid-bite. Their father narrowed his eyes.
Oh, for Josh, you talk like you even know how he's been living.
Better than you who only shows up to blame and bounce.
Great. There it is. The Clara knows best tone, like this family didn't collapse because of the 2 grown-ups sitting next to you.
Josh stiffened, hand clenching his napkin. He glanced at Lana, panic flickering. She shook her head gently, mouthing, "Not yet." Their dad set his glass down, voice low.
Not tonight. Sophie, we don't need to lay out every old wound like side dishes.
Their mum folded her napkin but didn't leave her seat.
I didn't come here expecting forgiveness, but tonight, let's at least do what the invitation said, share a meal.
Easy for you to say from someone who left but kept the judgment. We stayed. We got stuck with the wreckage.
Grandma tapped her cane lightly against the table leg, a sharp, clean sound.
If we're going to break down, do it after dessert. Don't waste the chicken.
Silence, but no one laughed, or no one lifted their forks. Josh stood. His shoulders were stiff as stone. His voice wasn't loud, but no one dared interrupt.
That's enough.
He looked around. At each face, the ones who made him, grew with him, once called each other home.
When I was a kid, every time we fought, Grandma would tell me to go grab spoons and set the table. Mom would close the door. Dad would drive off. Clara would head upstairs. Sophie blasted music. And I'd sit by myself with cold plates, waiting for someone to come back.
His voice began to shake, not from anger but from exhaustion.
I've waited too long just to have one dinner that didn't go cold, not cold from the inside out. No need for a wedding, no perfect reason, just dinner. As a family.
He turned to each of them for the first time, letting tears show.
I'm tired of being the one who holds on to things everyone else forgot. Tired of believing when there's no proof left. Tired of setting the table for people who've long walked away.
Lana rose quietly. She said nothing. She poured him a glass of water. Max, still in his seat, but with a voice steadier than ever.
You don't have to set the table alone anymore. You've got me tonight. And them. I think this time they won't walk away.
Grandma sighed, laying her hand on the table.
I'm sorry, kid. I thought it was us, the adults, who kept the memories. Turns out, it's you all who've been carrying them.
Their mother looked up, eyes red.
I didn't know you remembered that much. I saw you doing okay. I thought that was enough. I was wrong.
Their father nodded, not looking at Josh.
I always thought coming back would make things worse. Maybe. Not coming back was worse.
Clara stood. No longer defensive, she walked toward Josh.
I'm not great at apologizing, but I know you deserve a meal you didn't have to set by yourself.
Sophie pressed her lips, then spoke softly.
I'm sorry for the sarcasm, for leaving, for letting you carry what we were too scared to.
Josh took a deep breath. He didn't reply. He just sat down, for the first time all night. He let himself lean back in his chair, like setting down a backpack he'd worn for a lifetime. Lana squeezed his hand under the table. No words, no performance needed. After those words that tore through old layers of silence, no one spoke for several minutes, but no one left the table either. They stayed, like a thread had just been stitched across the room through quiet confessions, not perfect, but enough to sit a little longer together. Lana was the first to move. She stood, walked to the corner of the room, and pulled an old envelope from her bag. Inside were photographs, ones Josh had shown her late one night, but now, she believed, belonged to this room too.
I know this is a family dinner, but if I may, I'd like to place these memories on the table.
She gently laid out each photo, a Christmas night long ago, a backyard birthday party, a shot of Grandma baking with little Max wrapped in a dish towel like a ninja. No one said anything, but the entire table leaned in. Their mother chuckled softly at a photo of Josh in pajamas buttoned the wrong way. Their father raised his eyebrows at a picture of Max drawing on his face with a marker while he slept. Sophie let out a genuine laugh. Clara lightly touched the photo of herself in a hideous pink dress she used to hate. Max looked at them all, his eyes bright like a child discovering unexpected treasure.
How come I don't remember any of these?
You were just a little kid.
Still, it looks like I once lived somewhere happy. Even if I don't remember it, I believe it was real.
The table stilled again. Clara looked up at Max like it was the first time she truly saw how grown he'd become.
I used to wish things weren't as bad as they felt, but you're right. Sometimes we have to believe, so it can come back to life.
Their father spooned more potatoes onto Max's plate, simple, quiet warmth. Then he hesitated, looked toward their mother.
Can I get you some gravy?
She looked at him, then nodded faintly. As he poured the gravy onto her plate, no one spoke, but something in that look, once broken, quietly shifted. Grandma slid the family photo Christmas tree in the back into the center of the table.
Maybe no one's smiling like they did in this picture, but I scared everyone here tonight wants to be.
Lana sat back down. Josh's mother looked at her, then smiled softly.
Thank you, Lana, for the pictures and for staying.
Their father added, voice lower.
Also, thanks for lifting some of the weight off my son.
I think I just helped him remember what he already knew. This family still has a chance.
Josh sat still, his eyes scanning every face. His hand rested on the edge of the table where he used to sit as a boy, knees pulled in, back to the stove, waiting for some voice to call his name. Now, he sat upright, his eyes no longer searching, his heart no longer pleading.
If this is the only dinner I ever get like this, then I've had enough.
Sophie raised her glass, clinking gently with their mother's. Clara smiled and patted Josh's shoulder. Max pulled out his phone not to take pictures, but to play music, a playlist of songs that once echoed through their old home. Close to, you began to play not loud, not sharp, just enough to slow everyone's heart. No one sang along, but someone nodded, someone closed their eyes. Someone stayed silent, afraid to breathe too loud and break the moment. The dinner continued, but no one cared anymore which dish was the main course and which were sides. Only the soft clinking of silverware, the quiet, "Remember this?" and the occasional brush of fingers across the table like tape, trying to piece old memories back together. No one spoke loudly, yet inside, each was having a conversation long buried beneath work, distance, and old wounds. Clara looked at Josh, the little brother who used to cry when she wouldn't play, because I'm studying. She once thought he'd grow out of the pain, that he'd forget, like everyone else. But in front of her now stood a man who had built an entire fiction just to reclaim one real thing, family. Clara lifted her wine glass not to drink, but to hide a guilt too fresh to name. She had thought leaving meant preserving dignity, boundaries, but in truth, all she'd preserved was emptiness. Sophie sat not far off, watching Lana chat gently with Grandma. She didn't say anything, but something pinched inside her. The outsider had brought them together, while she, the rebel, had only known how to tear things down. She remembered yelling after the divorce, "Good no more pretending," but tonight, she ached for the performance because maybe, just maybe, it was the last piece of truth they had left. She reached out and placed a hand on Max's shoulder, squeezed gently, something she'd never done before. Max, still eating slowly, still scanning the room, didn't understand everything, but he felt it. No one was yelling, no one had stormed out. No one looked at him like he was a problem, and for the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged. Their father sat still. He picked up a piece of bread, dipped it in gravy, but didn't eat it. In his mind played the last time he left the house, Clara. 14. Sophie slamming a door. Josh pulling up a chair and sitting at the table alone, as if staying long enough might bring them all back. He had never asked that boy how it felt. Now. He sat beside him, laid a hand on his son's back, and patted not out of gratitude, but because he had just relearned a word, sorry. Their mother looked at the tablecloth, an old floral print Josh once hid under his pillow the night of the first divorce fight, he said. So the room doesn't feel empty. She had forgotten that. She had forgotten so many things, including how silently her son had grown. She leaned toward Lana, smiled not out of obligation, but because for the first time. She believed this stranger had truly wanted her to stay. She always thought she was the only one trying to hold something together. Now she realized she had let go long ago. Grandma laid a hand on her lap, smoothing her dress. She didn't need to say a word. Just watching her children and grandchildren sit together, eat without performance, was enough. This dinner wasn't a miracle, it was a grandson who dared stage a wedding just to touch what the grown-ups had long abandoned. Josh looked at them, each one. He didn't speak, he didn't push. But inside him, a storm surged, not fear, but the crashing emotion of someone who had gotten their dream and now was ready to trade it in for the truth. The dinner slowed. No one spoke loudly, no one rushed to leave. The food was nearly cold, but no one complained. They remained seated, like dreamers who'd stumbled into a warmth too delicate to wake from. Josh set his glass down gently, but the sound rang inside him like a bell. He looked around the table. No one looked back, but he knew if he spoke now, every eye would rise. Lana placed a hand on his thigh, not gripping, not nudging, just saying, now is the time. Josh stood, not with urgency, not for drama, but when he pulled a small paper from his pocket, the old printed menu, the back scribbled with, "The only reason I dared to do this," everyone looked up. He didn't read it, he simply held it, like holding on to the one true thing in the room.
Before everyone heads out, I have something to say.
No laughter, no interruptions, just a quiet stillness, like the whole room inhaled together.
There's no wedding, no real ceremony after this meal. And Lana's not my fiancée. She's a friend who agreed to help me create one night, just to bring our family back together.
Silence, heavy, but not sharp, more like a weighted blanket stretched across the table.
I know it's crazy. I know it might feel like a trick, but I tried everything. 5 birthdays, 3 Christmases, hundreds of texts no one answered. And then I thought, if there was one reason everyone might show up, it had to be a wedding.
Clara leaned back slightly, eyes lowered. Sophie pressed her lips, tilting her head. Max sat still as stone. Their mother rested a hand on her lap. Their father exhaled. Grandma closed her eyes.
I didn't need a wedding. I just needed one dinner. That wasn't cold. One moment where we looked at each other not like strangers. I don't know when the next time will be, or if there will be one. All I know is, tonight, we sat together, and that was real.
Lana stood slowly. She didn't look at anyone, just bowed her head a little.
I know this is strange, but I've never seen anyone love their family enough to stage an entire wedding, just to call them home.
That's when Clara let out a soft laugh like leaves brushing pavement.
You're still the same, still the kid who sold cookies to every neighbor just so Mom would come home for dinner.
Sophie raised a hand, as if to cover her face, then dropped it.
And this meal, even without a wedding cake, it's better than anything I've ever eaten alone.
Their father nodded quietly.
You don't owe anyone an apology because of you. I got to sit at this table again.
Their mother leaned forward, took Josh's hand for the first time in years.
You did something no one else in this family dared to do. You called us back, not with blame, but with an invitation. You weren't wrong. You're the heart this family forgot it had.
Grandma looked at Josh, her words slow and certain, each one a piece of something once broken, now held gently.
Thank you, sweetheart, because tonight we had dinner like a real family.
Max said nothing, but he stood, walked behind Josh, and wrapped his arms around him, a silent hug that didn't ask permission or explanation. Josh pulled his shoulders in, laid a hand on his brother's head. His eyes were red, but no tears fell. Because sometimes tears don't need to fall, they just need someone to hold them in silence. After the confession, no one stood up, no chairs scraped, no doors opened, not a single person left. Each of them, carrying something heavy inside, chose not to leave the table, as if afraid they might drop it along the way. The air was no longer a celebration. It was a single, sustained note, a sound you only hear through your chest. Their mother was the first to rise. She said nothing at first. She walked slowly around the table, stood behind Josh, and placed both hands on his shoulders.
We've left you sitting here for too long. That's enough.
Then she looked around.
If anyone here can't forgive, you're free to leave. But if you stay, don't just sit. Start learning how to ask. How was your day? Start from the beginning, as if we've never known each other, but want to.
No one left. Sophie stood beside their mother. Clara followed. Their father was slower, but he stood. Max still had his arms around Josh from behind. Grandma nodded gently.
Maybe. A wedding without a bride is the first one I've seen where people were this honest with each other.
Lana remained seated quiet, fading into the background. She knew this wasn't her celebration, but before she stepped away, she stood and faced them all.
I'll go now. This belongs to family, but if I'm allowed, I'd love to come next time without needing a wedding dress.
Their mother smiled and took her hand.
Next time. Just bring something tasty.
The table burst into soft laughter, not loud, but the first real one in years. Clara pulled out her phone, not to text, but to take a picture. Blurry, off-centered, but complete. Josh stayed seated, no longer looking at Lana, not even at Max, but at everyone. Each face he once thought belonged only in old photographs. Now they were here, not perfect, not easily forgiven, but present. And to Josh that was real, real enough to begin again. Tuesday morning, light rain. Josh sat on the balcony, warm coffee in hand, laptop open with a piece of code still unresolved. But he wasn't looking at the screen set. He was reading a new message from a group chat titled, "Family Dinner, the Real One."
I accidentally marinated too much chicken. Who's free this Sunday?
I'm free, but Josh is cooking, or Lana.
If it's at my place, the table's clean. I'll get mint tea.
I can grill outside, as long as it doesn't snow in mid-June.
I'm bringing the new game. Loser does the dishes.
Josh didn't reply right away. He just smiled, soft but real. In his inbox, an email from Clara attached the group photo from the wedding night. Subject line: the night we sat down, not for a wedding, but because we still need each other. In the hallway, a soft knock on the door. Lana didn't come in, so she just asked,
Can I come back in, or are we still acting?
Scene's over. This part's unscripted.
Lana smiled, stepped in, and without needing an introduction, she poured coffee for both of them. They sat in silence, not because they had nothing to say, but because they didn't need to. On the wall, a newly framed photo, the whole family a little messy, someone looking the wrong way, someone blinking, but everyone sitting close, not pretending, not posing. Beneath the photo, a handwritten caption from Josh. I just wanted us to have dinner together one more time. Turns out one time was enough to begin again. Thank you for listening to the story. If you have any thoughts, feel free to share them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Once again, I'm really happy to have you here. Don't forget to subscribe so we can keep sharing more stories about life together. Take care and see you next time.